Welcome back to the Daily Edge. I'm sitting here with my brothers, TJ and Todd, and we have another special guest. We have my oldest son, Roman. We've had all the kids on over a couple of episodes, and he actually is getting to be the star of the show as he doesn't have to share any screen time with anyone else. So we thought it would be interesting to just cover all things. Roman is in high school, 17 years old, and there's a lot going on, and we're going to get some perspective. So I'm going to kick this over to TJ to get her started.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. If you look at society in general over the years, it seems like the path forward is less and less certain than it used to be. You look back to the start of the country or 100 years ago, you were going to be a farmer or something like that. And then you get to a couple generations before ours and you were going to go into some form of business. You were going to go work in a factory. Maybe you were going to go to college. And then there was, and this is, of course, from the perspective of us and where we grew up and who we were surrounded by. So there are obviously different pockets and parts of the country where people did different things, but by and large, as it relates to the people we were around, there was a pretty straightforward path. When we were growing up, it was college. Like that was the next step. There were some instances where some people did some entrepreneurial things or other things. And I think it'd be very interesting, as we get, I guess, Roman, specifically your generation, because you were, and I'm excited to talk through this, you were that first generation that was exposed to technology without the reins. Like you guys, as you've gotten older, people have been more and more tight with screen time and things like that, but you guys are also part of this generation where there are way more paths forward than just college. So I'd love to hear from you. We were talking a little earlier about your friends and some of the different paths they're taking and what those are and what yours are, and just kind of talk through that a little bit.
Yeah, I know that one thing that I've known that I've seen a lot of is that I've seen a lot of not insecurity, but instability in a lot of job markets, having job security, and a lot of those things are not always assured in a lot of spaces. It's a thing that a lot of people have come to realize, as well as a lot more access to a lot of the things surrounding like college. Like a lot of the college degrees won't guarantee you jobs. A lot of jobs are asking for, a lot of times over asking for starting positions and a lot of that stuff, to where I've even seen some people, like, they have a college degree, they can't go into that field because there's so much competition, as well as they can't go into other fields because they don't either have the right degree or they don't have enough work experience. That's why I feel like a lot of people feel like that is why we're seeing more, broadness and choices and all of that stuff, due to like more exploration of it. Mm-hmm. Like I know my friend, he started his own business with a friend of his. He started his own business. He's been working all the time, and like he sometimes even goes out of school to make sure that he has enough time to do all these things, and he enjoys it. He's talked to him about it. He's always he enjoys it. He does say it does take a strain on his time, but it's what he likes to do. While others, they stay in family businesses. Like another friend of mine, they work in the construction space, where it's a family business. His grandpa is kind of getting a little older, so he's started to fill those steps, and he's just going to be working. He's just going to be in school online next year. He's not even going to come in physically. And that's one of those other options that previous generations didn't have. They couldn't go online. And now he gets to make money, help out his family, as well as make sure he still continues his education, to make sure he has a high school education, make sure he can support his future in that way as well. And I've thought a lot about college and making sure that I have a lot of opportunities in the future, with things like making sure that the job that I want to get in the future still exists by the time I get to that job. Where there's certain things like, well, there's certain things that I like to do, right? I like learning about things. I can enjoy teaching things. Like I played a lot of video games where, I enjoy learning about those video games. I enjoy learning about those things. And then I like teaching others about that stuff. I like sharing what I've learned about it. But that's an uncertain space because, well, is AI going to take it over? Is it just going to go strictly online? Is another thing that I've thought about. And in the space that what I've decided to do in college, I would like to do something with things like law and public policy, learning about interpreting the law, all that stuff, and ultimately become a lawyer in the end, where I feel even if the lawyer job specifically is replaced, I will still have a fallback plan to interpret law, interpret policy, and all of that stuff as a government position.
You mentioned the trade, or you mentioned construction earlier on there, and there's kind of been, I would say, an explosion in the trades the last several years. Do you have a lot of friends that are going into the trades, becoming electricians, plumbers, that sort of thing?
Yeah, you see it a lot at Marion specifically as we have this thing called the GRCC, the Grant Regional Career Center, and if you have, I would look into it a little bit yourself, but where you can get a certified CNA. You can become a nurse straight out of high school. You can get a licensed in construction to where over the year you work on building a house under guidelines, and you can get hired straight into place there. There's welding. There's all of these different job opportunities there to where you can learn to work with your hands. And there's so many opportunities through that. To where everyone in Grant County, I see buses coming in from Mississinawa, Oak Hill, Madison Grant, all coming in to this GRCC to have these opportunities to learn. And a lot of people I know do really enjoy taking those classes and see themselves doing that in the future.
Do you think that this is something, and it might be the generation right before you, but maybe your tail end of it, there was talk or has been talk about the misalignment on expectations. People graduating high school or graduating college, and like if they don't have a job waiting for them for $150K a year, I'm just going to stay home and not do anything. And that may not be Marion, that may again be the generation prior to you or other areas geographically. But do you feel like your peers yourself have are pretty grounded as it relates to what's coming for you and kind of the progression in the professional marketplace and what you have to do to get there? Because you did mention a little bit about experience plus in the competitive job market. Do you feel like you guys are kind of grounded there?
I feel like we are much more grounded, but it's more of there's the grounding, but there's also the understanding that we a lot of times have as we're getting into this senior year, we've taken classes that help you that are try to help you understand, going into life, like how are you gonna how are you gonna pay for things? Are you gonna do this, that? And seeing as all this stuff happens, how am I gonna pay for this? How am I gonna pay for that? How am I gonna make sure that I'm living how I want to live? Mm-hmm. And there's been certain places where the wage has fallen behind what you would call if I wanted to buy a house in life, I wanted to buy this, that, where you really want those things, but you know that, to do that, I need to have a wage that is much higher than a minimum wage, where I don't have exact numbers on this, but I heard that minimum wage is you have to times it by almost 3 times to be able to afford what you could in something along the lines of 60s, where if you're working minimum wage,
purchasing
you could still
power
get those
has
things.
gone down so much.
Purchasing power has gone down a lot.
It's really interesting.
As well as things with housing, understanding that the housing market's gotten very rough with private equity buying things out, certain things in that area, alongside other places, understanding all that stuff. I mean, even in just the other day, I have a general education class that I'm retaking. I failed it, honors version of it last year, where I'm interacting with people that I usually wouldn't, and the teacher, he's a great teacher, I love him. He really cares for a lot of these kids, and he makes sure to have an assignment that I finished on Thursday, going over a lot of this stuff, where I'm making sure, like, hey, this job, this is what they make a month, right? And then going over all the different costs, where, starting with housing, how are you gonna? Starts with taxes, then it moves to housing, transportation, furnishing, all those things, and understanding how eating, all those things. And is that going to fit into what it is? Are you going to need a second job? How much does education cost? And I heard a lot of people like being surprised, like, oh crap, I need to, like, this isn't going to work, right? I'm going to need to pick up a second job, or I'm going to need to rethink like the lifestyle I want to live.
Yeah, that's really, I'd love to build on that comment around the lifestyle. And I think this is just my perception. And so I'm interested in your perspective on this, because I feel like in our generation, it was a lot about the American dream. It was like really about how much can you make? Can you buy a house? Can you have a family? Can you have that thing? And it feels like the last few generations, I shouldn't say few generations, the last few kind of waves, maybe the last decade or so, maybe give or take 5 years, has been maybe a little more purpose driven. You see a little more socially conscious activity in people that aren't necessarily chasing the best job for the highest compensation, might be willing to live at home or more open to that sort of thing. So again, this is just perception. So I'm interested in your kind of circles. Is there a lot of discussion around kind of trying to chase the compensation, or is it more, having a really purposeful, meaningful career?
There is a lot of, I feel like more conversations are built on purpose more than finances in that sense. To where finances are always a part of it, are always a part of the talk. Can you live off of it? But it's more of, am I going to enjoy this? Is this going to be something I want to do for the rest of my life? And there is a couple things. Could you remind me what you said about buying a house and all that stuff? Real quick. Just like
I think there was this during our kind of upbringing, this concept of the American dream, where it's like you wanted to buy it, that you bought a house in a suburb and had kids and family and that sort of thing. And I think people, some of it is just affordability, that may not be a reality for as many people these days with some of the private equity activity, but it just plays back to the compensation question. Are people chasing this specific lifestyle that everyone's telling them that they should be living, or, more open to other?
Kind of building off of that, I know that something that some people have talked about is bringing back the family home, going back to generations all live in the same house, to where in the past you couldn't buy, like every generation consequently couldn't buy a house. Everyone lived in that same house generation for generations for 400 years, right? Where as these prices have gotten more and more expensive, where we don't know if it's either a market spike or anything else. But I've talked, like, I know some people who do still live with their parents. Like, I talked to that same teacher who did that assignment for like helping people understand their finances. He specifically, like, he lets his kids, like, hey, you can live with us, but you have to have a dream. Yeah, like, you're still gonna pay us, like, yeah, you can pay us rent, but that's like paying off utilities, all those things. But as long as you have like a dream, you have a purpose that you're working towards. That's how he put it.
Yeah.
And
it's really important. I feel like that's kind of the challenge in a lot of this, is like how do you the human species, one of our strengths is we're very resilient. And I feel like when our backs are against the wall or when we're put in a position to have to do something, we find a way to do it. I think one of the downsides is contentment. I think there is something built into us that's almost like an energy preservation mechanism from days long ago, that in those scenarios when you don't need the money, it's tough to maybe stay motivated and pursue that dream. Just an interesting psychological challenge.
Do you think that, again, being the first generation that was unfetteredly exposed to screens with no restrictions, I would imagine that you guys and are much better than most societally at determining or delineating between reality and fiction. And I mean that you can take that at face value. Like, yes, we can tell what's AI versus not, but also you guys can see through the Instagramification of things where, in our age, it was more about making it than how you made it, right? It was house, car, 100K a year was the magic number when we were growing up. It was about just getting there. Who cares how you got there? You got there. And I think that a lot of our generation, especially early on, didn't see through Instagramification. So they kept chasing. This person has this person has this person has this. Do you think, and I guess it kind of builds off Todd's point, do you think that because of that and because every Twitch streamer is showing you their new Lambo and their new mansion and whatever, that you guys have kind of become numb to that?
Yeah, I would say personally, I feel like a lot of people more value intentionality and meaning behind things. That's you could probably see some of that in some of the modern art stuff, to where it's a lot of that's abstract, but I've seen personally some pieces that I really enjoy where some of it has a lot of meaning to it. And online, personally, if I'm watching someone, I want to see someone who's intentional, right? About what they're doing, what all that stuff, and they're not trying to be bigger than they are, right? That's a lot of my friends. That's why I enjoy hanging out with them, because they're not trying to be someone who they're not. They're not trying to do those things. And that's why that's something that I feel like a lot of my generation does. It's being blunt. It's that Gen Z stare where what the heck did you just say to me? Like customer service, like being like just getting insulted at a customer service job, like, and just being blank, not being super, like not putting on that mask, being super kind and overly performative.
Do you think this is completely sideways from our conversation? Yeah. Do you think that's why Queso's super successful? Because he's just so chill and like doesn't try to be somebody he's not?
That's why I feel like quite a few of these big guys are successful. He is very intentional about who he is, as well as there's a couple of others that are in that same space. I know there's this guy, Joe Bartolozzi. He's there's sometimes where you think like he's very loud, but he's an energetic guy, but he also has a degree in philosophy, right? Mm-hmm. But he's a massive streamer, millions of subscribers over platforms. But he gets very intentional. There's sometimes where he gets deep philosophical debates. Other days he's playing a fun video game. And there's a couple of other examples I could go to. But yeah.
That's refreshing. I mean, knowing that like I was just watching a video just so you guys have context as to what we're talking about. We're talking about essentially Twitch streamers. And it was talking about how he's one of the guys who didn't follow the algorithm where, you see some of these guys, your Kai Sinets of the world, your ISO Speeds of the world, they're on everybody else's podcast, they're collabing with everybody else, they're buying Lambos,
One thing I will say about Speed, Speed is less on hopping trends. He's also very intentional about who he is. To where have you seen stuff about his world tour?
No?
Oh, this is great. His world tour, he did a tour of all these, like Africa, he did a tour of all these countries in Asia, to where he lets the locals lead him around. He lets them show them their culture and do all those things. To where there's hundreds of videos online to where he's wearing their classic ceremonial garbs.
Dope.
Or he's wearing but he's also very respectful of all these cultures, making sure, like listening and learning. But you can also see all the clips of him being super crazy playing video games.
Ryan Trahan kind of feels like that way. I mean, he feels very intentional with what he does too. I know he's just started some recent stuff about touring, all the
Yeah.
Joyride. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, and right now he's doing he did the 50 states in 50 days or whatever. Now he's doing the top 10 attractions in the United States, and he was done Disney World and now DC and Niagara Falls. So that for me, that feels very reassuring, knowing that you guys are kind of gravitating more towards purpose and less towards this frivolous.
Yeah, and I will say that's kind of why I feel like Mr. Beast has started to fall off, because he's turned it into a business where initially he was a guy who would, go out and give a couple $1,000, he'd give $10,000, but it felt a lot more personally, felt a lot more close. But now you can tell he's wearing a mask. It is not him who's on that screen. But yeah.
It's again reassuring you guys see through that, because I've started to feel the same way. Like it's just a formula. It's not getting. We'll go back to Twitch. It's not getting on Twitch and finding somebody with zero live viewers, $5,000. Like personally doing that's how you used to do it, or some of that other stuff. It does feel much. I saw something with him yesterday where he was ranting about how when they put Starlink on planes, like he won't take a plane unless it has Starlink, so he can be connected and uploading and doing that at all times. And it just seems disingenuous.
Yeah. And I feel this is kind of going back to more of the school side of things. But we like having that meaning and purpose behind things goes into that standardized testing, to where you can, like I follow some teachers online. Can't remember exactly what her name is, but she talks about, she's Gen X herself. She talks about her experience with Gen Z students, and how she has seen a lot of, like, we prioritize a lot of different things, where in specifically like standardized testing, our scores look way lower. They look way worse. But that's because most of us just don't care about them, because certain places have turned away from them. Some people know they're bad test takers, so they know they'd rather save themselves a bunch of stress and like a lot of toil, because they know, hey, I'm not a good test taker. I get very anxious on those days, and I'm going to get a worse score than what I know I am. And some places have just stopped taking it due to those reasons. But as well as they're very disconnected. Like, I don't feel like I enjoy what I'm reading, right? If I enjoy something that I'm reading, I'm on this, I'm writing it. That's what I love about this this AP language class, right? To where on the test, I got something that I got multiple things that I enjoyed. Which is massive when in one of those writing classes, to where if you enjoy something, you can write like crazy on it. But if you don't enjoy it and you don't feel any connection to it, you just I don't care, right? That's like on 2 of the 3 essays. I felt like I was doing great. I felt like I had stuff that I could write on, stuff that I can bounce off of. But then on the 3rd essay, I just didn't feel connected to it. I didn't feel very much like I had any connection to it, and I just kind of pushed it off because I knew I wouldn't do well, and it wasn't something like I knew what 2 points I could get, and then I just kind of finished it from there.
What excites you most about the next couple of decades? Like personally for you, kind of the environment and where you're going, and just where the world's going. What excites you the most?
I don't really think about the future too often normally. I don't think about the future, don't think about the past too much. Awesome. I think more in the short term. I don't often think in long term. It's like, yeah, I'm thinking about, college, think about that, but I haven't thought too much outside of it. I know I do want to, at one point, maybe start a firm of my own, if I do end up finishing law. Some other things that seem a little interesting. Nothing off the top of my head, though.
We've touched on this a couple of times in this conversation already from a technology standpoint. We were lucky to go from nothing, at least internet-wise, to where we are today. But you've grown up in kind of this hyper growth, from gosh, what are you, 17? So I don't know, 2009, which
Oh.
would have been post iPhone. So what has it been like this last couple of years? You know, I mean, your dad loves to talk about it, so let's talk about AI and your in school and how it's impacted you guys. I mean, I see my kids who are considerably younger. You know, your cousins are 12 and 10, and they'll use things here and there. But like, do you see it's been a positive? I mean, you and I were talking about it upstairs earlier, and you've heard a lot of negative perspective around it too. I guess maybe as it applies to school in specific, what have you seen? How do you feel it's being used, not used?
I know that specifically, a lot of places I like to use. I use it as a place to build off of. Specifically for like my bigger essays in that AP language class, I used it to help me find sources. Right, I would start writing however I liked, and hey, could you find me sources that would help me show this or that? Like I know there was a homelessness essay that I was writing end of last semester, going over, how could you help homelessness, or this most recent one. I was over the restaurant business and, how has community changed business, or how has community support helped keep a business in like business running, a small local business running. Those are examples of how I've used it in this, as well as other places you learn like, hey, this is not important to me, and the teacher doesn't mind it either. Like he knows it's happening, but he doesn't really care to where you use it in that class, right? You just learn when and where to use it, but most of the time, like you can put something together better yourself than it can.
Yeah.
As well as there's certain points of it that I've in certain fields where I like to in like video games and stuff, I've tried to have a dialogue with it, right? But it can't have a high level conversation around certain things.
Sure.
To where it can have a very baseline conversation about a lot of things. It just can't get very deep. To where if you want to start going deep dives, certain stats, certain things, it can analyze it, but it's ultimately it's based off of patterns. It cannot ultimately make something new. It can see what other people have done. It can see what's been put in, but that's some of the stuff like. That's why I'd prefer to go talk to someone else about one of these things, like because they can give other feedback that wouldn't be able to. Because I always feel like it's just spitting stuff, the same things I gave it back out at me, to where I'll use it for math, I'll use it for English, but if I'm using it to do certain other things, it's just completely incompatible, and I can't get to use it the way I want it to.
I like that. It's like actually doing exactly what most people thought it wouldn't, which is it's pushing you back towards social engagement because it's just not good at it. And it's not going to replace that. And it's like, I see through this. This is missing the soul or the consciousness or whatever it is. I need to find somebody out there or a community out there to engage with because I'm never going to get it from this thing.
Yeah. And there's other parts of it that I think about sometimes where you can see people get completely outraged at AI. I'm pretty neutral on it. I don't mind it. I don't hate it. But I'm not, like my dad who he loves using it. You've ranted about how it can do certain things in business, how it can be extremely innovative, but I just still don't feel like it's with the models that are released to the public, either if it's the premium version or not, that it's changed drastically, right? It can make certain parts of jobs easier. It can replace some very small things that are just like, put in numbers, right? It can't change research. It can't it can observe stuff. It can do that things, but it can't create.
Yeah, I think your point's well taken. I think there are some limitations. Certainly, it's an efficiency play. When you're talking about you could do simple things quicker, it can be a brainstorming partner. But if you're talking about the frontier of quality, it's very tough to push that because that takes a lot of innovation and very creative thought and pushing the boundaries of patterns that don't exist yet. And so it doesn't.
Yeah. And even I've seen this a while ago. Some companies have started rehiring people because it's cheaper to hire someone now than it is to go to AI in some cases. It's one of the headlines that I saw. I've seen it a couple of times. That's just real. That kind of just threw me for a spin. It's now sometimes cheaper to actually get a person than it is, like to hire a person than it is to go to AI for like the tickets or the coins, depending on what model you decide to use.
Very interesting.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. It's crazy that we get there different ways. But I had the same conversation. I was in a meeting last week at the headquarters of a really big retail partner of ours, and I had the same conversation with them. I built out a platform that recommends products. And my commentary there was, it's a starting point. Like you said with your essays, like this is we build from here. I'm not going to take AI's word as gospel because it just isn't. And you can tell at the surface by just looking at it, it's not quite right. It's taking liberties and whatever. So I like that. It's cool to see us align. 30 years in age difference, we get to the same point. So it sounds like everything is progressing the way you want it to, and I think we can be excited about the future of humanity.
Yeah, there is one thing that I would like to talk on, and it's something that's kind of frustrated me myself, and that's how certain legislators are taking to technology in schools, like how Indiana has just completely banned phones from entering schools. If it's like it has to be turned in some of those things, to where it is not the solution, not completely not. If they don't want to pay attention, they are not going to pay attention. It doesn't matter if they're on their phones. You've given them a device. Like next year we're getting laptops. They're going to be watching YouTube on the laptops. They're going to be doing those things on the laptops. Taking away one thing is not going to make them go focus on the other.
Okay, sorry. No, I was going to say, I just saw, we were actually talking about that like 2 days ago. Is the law, do you guys have to, because it's bell to bell, right? No devices at all, no phones. Do they have to stay in your locker? Can they not even enter the school?
I don't know all the specifics of that specifically. I'm leaving it in my car. I'm not bringing it into the school. I don't want it confiscated because I don't want to have to go through the process of, what if they lose the phone? What if they do all those things to where, what does that look like on the school for when those things happen, if they do take it?
What do you think? I think it's a fascinating point. What do you think if you were to attribute the challenge? You kind of said they're not really attacking the root cause. They're tracking a symptom and kind of taking something. What do you think is the root cause of the lack of focus?
There's to where I would put it towards a lot of the stuff where if you look at the GRCC, right? Everyone loves being in the GRCC, the Grant Regional Career Center that I was talking about earlier, where they get hands-on, they do all those things. A lot of people are not built for school. They're not built like for that type of engagement, and it just doesn't work for them. To where in the basic school, it's not right for them. They go over to GRCC, they excel, right? And in other places, it's not. Like personally, I enjoy some parts of regular schooling. Mm-hmm. I like problem solving. I like solving those challenges, and that's why. Personally, like, I don't mind, like, I don't have my phone I don't use my phone in like half my classes. But in other classes that are, short, you get the assignment done. But there's sometimes, short little challenging pieces, and then you're done for the day. And then you get on your phone, you hang out with friends. Like, I know a lot of my friends, like we hop on class and we all play a game together. It's been different games over the course of like the past couple years. But like we played Clash Royale, Among Us, all these big games. Just we all play them all together in class after we're done with our assignments, and that's something that, it's trying to get what I was getting towards. as well as the interaction, right? The content itself feels, depending on the class, feels disconnected, right?
That's what I was going to ask. It sounds like, and I was going to ask if this was a personality thing, who enjoys the GRCC versus more the classroom. But it sounds like part of what you're saying here is in the GRCC, there's more of an application of your knowledge, right? You're doing things with it, whether that's building things or working on things, versus in the classroom, it's more of this theoretical. You're just learning this knowledge that you may not. I mean, there's a lot of complaints about math, right? You know, you're never going to use this in the real world. And so it's a lack of, do you feel like it's a lack of application that people struggle with?
I would say less of application. I would say that it's the content itself. Any class, any of it. Understanding that, like, oh, I know that certain things are not going to be used. Why should I care about it, right? If this is like, I'm not going to college anyways. Why should I care about this, right? I'm just going to graduate. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah. Interesting.
What do you think the solution is, though? I mean, because granted, when we grew up, there were kids that weren't going to go to college, that there were subjects that we would say we were forced to learn that maybe weren't going to be as applicable as we got older, and we suffered through them like everybody else. But how would you, like, what do you think the solution for modern day schooling is with knowing, I know Marion High School just there's like 3 or 4 pass now, and it's not all college based stuff. How would you like organize schooling in general so it provides value for the most kids possible?
I would change the way that it's set up, right? I personally like certain aspects of the traditional schooling. I like the periods, changing things. Like, I wouldn't want to work on one thing all day, right? I don't want to work on 3 things all day. I like having 7 distinct classes where I go from one class to another, get like, oh, I have a break period, I have this period. And then there's certain classes that I enjoy taking, right? Like I have my band. I had a concert last night. It's very rewarding in that. But the way these classes are set up, a lot of times, like busy work. I hate busy work. It's not a way that I learn. And I, a lot of times, don't get it done. I don't perform extremely well in classes where there's high volumes of work. And it's different for every student. And there's some of those things where understanding how you learn, how all those things happen, and the personalization of it. But then in like the content itself, standardized content should not be a thing, right? There should be standards that you have to learn. But like, I know like my AP chemistry teacher, like you have to learn all these specific things, but he does not teach anywhere close to the way that everyone else teaches. They have a specific order that they want, like, hey, we recommend you teach it in this order. He teaches it completely way different off the walls order. And he's had incredible results. His class is really enjoyable. And like, on the AP test, it's a 1 through 5 scale. He hasn't had a kid fail in like 5 years. Wow. Like
Last year, did every student get a 4 or 5?
Every student got a 4 or 5.
I never passed one of those tests.
Yeah. And they're like, he literally, like, he has incredible results in that.
It's great.
But that's just because he's understood, like, changing the way his class runs, changing those things to where the kids enjoy being in there and enjoy the content that's in there. To where I don't want to read a 300-year-old book about something that I'm like, I don't care about that, right? I don't care about a rhetorical analysis, learning about, oh, a writer did this for this reason. They used word choice. Like, sure, if you want to go into, like, that should be a higher up English thing. Sure, understanding why a writer did one thing or another, sure, right? But going off those bases is something that I don't think any student in there enjoyed doing rhetorical analysis. There might be 1 or 2 people who are the minority in that, but I talk to most people and it's like, yeah, I did not enjoy that. I did not feel like that was something rewarding. And that's when I kind of pushed, that's the essay that I pushed off during the test. Because I personally have a hard time understanding bits and pieces of it, as well as the way they want you to set it up. Having those little underlying rules and expectations for, like, personally, if I'm writing, like, I want to break down the way a writer writes, I want to do it linearly. I want to go through the text. Oh, in the first paragraph, they use this, they use that, and then going through it that way. But the way they want you to do it, and the only way you're going to get a good score is going through, you pick out 3 things that you saw they did, and then you talk about those 3 things separately. And just how rigid schooling is, to where instead of it being extremely rigid, being more liquid, having more malleable, like learning paths, like some schools are starting to do. And that's why some people have started enjoying homeschooling more, being able to go out, do other things, do those other type of stuff. Sorry if I've been ranting on for a little too long.
Very interesting.
That's really good. And maybe it solves itself, meaning that, like, I don't think that, administration has enough purview to solve the problems, but based on your commentary around, people starting to look for things purposefully, I feel like this is my perspective on it, is that I think a large portion of academia is influenced by the level of effort being put forth by teachers. And again, our generation, the generation before us, a teacher, they've been underpaid, but it was still a way to get there. Like you could take that career path and buy a house and do all the things. And I think, we've all had teachers, and maybe it's at certain points in their career, maybe it's waned over time, that just don't care. So it's like, all right, I'm going to take whatever the fixed curriculum is nationally or statewide, and I'm just going to apply it. You guys go do it. This is the order. This is how it's done, versus AP chemistry teacher. You're talking about some of the ones I'm sure we all had that actually really cared, took the time to adapt the lesson plan to, the people that they were teaching, and make it work in the confines of the box they were given, if you will. So I think that's where I'm actually reading a book right now called Inside the Box, and that's the premise of the entire book: is creativity is born out of restriction. Right. And so if you take a teacher like your AP chemistry teacher who, okay, here's this rigid box, like you said, you have to hit these standards, you have to learn these things. He can be creative within there and come up with these really unique ways to deliver that message. So again, like you said, hopefully with more people pursuing these avenues, teaching being one of them, with passion, there'll be more care, and that things will shake out better in the end.
I am curious, though. You guys have both brought up like screens and technology, and that was your point of, well, taking away the cell phones is dumb, it's stupid. What do you feel like? I mean, there's obviously extremes, but what do you feel like kids your age with social media, are they all in it, social media all the time, or is your group just kind of like, they don't really deal with social media, or just screens in general? Like how have those impacted attention spans and, motivation? Like, do you guys see those as problems? We've talked about numerous times that we think screens are somewhat problematic, and from living in the house what we've been doing, but do you guys see those as problems, or you just think that we're all crazy?
From what I've seen, everyone has their own form of self-regulation, right? To where you don't, in certain classes, you don't see phones at all. Other classes, you see phones. And it's really just based off of how engaging the class is, right? I know it's going to be a little bit different for my classes due to I'm in honors classes, I'm in AP classes. Where it's going to be a little bit different because a lot of us care about going to college, making sure we make it into X, Y, or Z, and all of our accolades up to that point. But even in some of these other classes, I try to be observant. And like, well, I know that I've seen these behaviors, I hear these behaviors, but why are they going on? And there's underlying issues a lot of times there, but you can always see self-regulation, right? With this unfiltered, unregulated access to screens, you'll see a lot of people self-regulating, to where a lot of people do it differently. I know that some kids do have social media, some people don't. I don't like having most social media. I only use social media as a place to go take my mind off of stuff, relax. I don't like having political stuff. I don't like having very serious stuff on my pages. To where it's inevitable that it's gonna show up every once in a while if a big event happens or something. As well as
we put a pretty strict 1 hour limit on like TikTok and such. Do you think that's a good thing, or do you think that's dumb? Honestly,
I don't. It's like one of those things. The box. The box is the way that creates creativity. To where it's the same thing that school is. Taking away the phones is not going to fix the problem, because you can always go, oh, at school I can just hop on my school iPad, hop on TikTok Shorts. It's worse content, but it's still something. To where it's not like taking away is not fixing the problem. It's just putting a box that is going to innovate creativity.
So, do you feel like kids your age spend 10 plus hours a day on their phone? Do you feel like is that a common place for most kids, and is that okay? I mean,
I don't feel like it's, depending on the class you go into, it's not a common occurrence.
What about outside the classroom? Like, we're talking just more broadly in life in general. What is kind of the thought process there? As Trent mentioned, I think the older generations, we have a tendency to do this. We kind of flock to how we lived, right? Without a lot of this. Do people have any outside of the class concerns or hesitations?
I don't feel like I don't see a lot of it. I know that, once again, it goes back to that self-regulating point. I know a lot of my friends, they're working or they're in sports, they're doing all these things to where they're keeping themselves busy, and then when they have their time, they have their time, right? And that's really the important part, is that they do things to keep themselves busy, and then whenever they want to hop on, they hop on.
Awesome.
They hop on their phone, they do whatever, one thing or the next.
that's good. Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Okay. Well, that's Roman. You did most of the talking there. Thanks for the insight. We all have our perspectives, which you guys all know very well, but that was really interesting. Even living with the kid, I didn't know how he viewed on some of those things. So that was really interesting for me as well. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a little bit about what's going on in the world of teenagers and current schooling. We'll see you next time.